Hi there. My name is Michael Mirdad, in case you're not familiar with me or my work yet. And it's time for our Friday night Spiritual Insights with Michael Mirdad presentation. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to talk about the work of a light worker. Light workers is a term, some of you know, that supposedly I came up with back in the early 80s. Sometimes things just come to me, names or expressions. And, it's like once upon a time there was a certain musician named Paul McCartney, and he was just a kid, 20-something, and he wrote a song called Yesterday. And in his mind, when he woke up, the song was so clear in his mind, the words, lyrics, everything, that he was certain that he had heard it on the radio, and he was just waking up humming it or something, He asked around, and everybody's, no, never heard of it. There's no such song. And, finally he said, okay, well, it must be mine then. And, then he puts it to vinyl in those days. So eventually vinyl for us anyway. And so my point is that these things, they just seem so natural. And what happens is we have never left the mind of God. We've never left the consciousness of God. So technically it should be natural, as organic as you can imagine organic to be, for us to pick up sort of the radio waves of God, the consciousness. And so even though we're on earth, it's so amazing to imagine that if you picture God here and earth over here, then people are kind of fending for themselves. But if you imagine earth and the people on the earth are in God, then all of a sudden you recognize we live in the light, living in the light of God, living in tranquility and peace and joy. We just don't know it because we're too busy manufacturing our own reality, which is a lowercase r. And there are so many layers and levels and, oh my goodness, about all this that to try to explain it is complicated, because to explain multidimensionality with a non-multidimensional language, it doesn't go very far. So, but I do my best, to convey these things. And so I came up with this word, light worker. It just made sense. And I had a newsletter that was bearing, something along the line of that same name. And this is back in the, I think, mid-'80s. And it was, back in those days, it was, hard copy newsletters that we would send out every month. You have to label them and sort them for the post office and all that. So we did that for, oh my God, maybe 10 years. But my newsletter was called, something along these lines. And because to me, God is light. And Christ is light. Christ consciousness is the light of God on the earth plane. So we are basically torch bearers, light bringers in a sense, but light bearers. So we're carrying the torch of the light of God. Because in God, although the earth plane would seem like it's actually the whole universe is this dot within the consciousness of God, because the whole universe is a dot within our consciousness and we're a dot in God's consciousness. Although at the same time our inheritance is to be completely one with God, we've reduced ourselves to being a dot and then dreaming that we're in the dot within our consciousness. And in the dream, we're imagining that that dot is somewhere else. I hope that made sense. But we're still in the consciousness of God. And I don't want to get too inspirational per se, because that's what I do mostly on the Sunday talks that I do. Here we save this more for self-help and psychology, but for the Friday nights. But it's still going to go that direction, because we're light workers, because we're really the light of God who chose to experience amnesia and forget who we really are. And so we have to work, seemingly, at remembering. So light workers simply means those who are working at remembering their light. And since my work has always been, and my mission has always been, my ministry has always been, my beliefs have always been about there being a God, and that we are the Christ, the light of God, the children of God. Since I've always believed that, I just thought it seems so natural that we're light and that we're light bearers and light workers and so on and so on. So that seemed very easy to me. And then in the 90s and later than that, the word started catching on and kind of becoming popularized, and which is nice. it's not like I get all prideful that I came up with a word that got popularized. The only way I could actually feel proud, so to speak, of having come up with that word, it would be as if it were used properly. And instead, it's sort of descended and got misused. And I talked about this in another talk that I did. You can see it. It's free on YouTube somewhere, along the lines of Lightworkers and all that. But it started getting misused, and people started using it almost like stamping the word organic on foods that are not even organic anymore. Oh, we're light workers, and they talk light workers, but there's still sometimes groups calling themselves light workers, groups that are singling out away from other groups, or groups that are maybe angry, save the planet and hate people that taint the planet with toxins. That's not light work at all, but whatever, to each his own. But at least since I came up with the word, I'm allowed to say something about it. It's not like I'm saying it's mine, but it's mine in a sense. Only in the sense that I'm saying, since it was created, a word supposedly by me, there's no history that someone else used it before, at least not known. And I hope people used it. I hope they used it forever. That wouldn't be a problem I would have. But what I'm saying is, since I seem to have brought it forward in this lifetime, I would like some say-so about what it means. Since I'm the one who made it up, I can define what my word means. And I'm using the word mine only to illustrate something here. And so I'm saying that the definition is that it's people that are working to manifest the light presence of God. Light work is not an ego-based thing. It's not a selfish thing. It's not a my group only thing. Anybody that's doing the work of light. But don't call light something that you minimize. Understand, go all the way and credit it to God. So I'm a light worker, which means I should be proud to say, to acknowledge, to feel, to aim towards God, instead of sort of pushing God out of the picture. And then that's where that word ego comes from, edging God out. So when you push God out of the picture, it's, how can you call it really light work? And if you're going to, don't capitalize the word L, capitalize the word light or light worker. If it's God-centered, then it's capital L, the light of God. If it's self-oriented, then you use lowercase and do your best to not even use the word if you don't mind. Anyway, back to the main point, which is the work of a light worker. What are we here to do? It's not a club I choose to own. There are websites now. People have popularized websites that are called Lightworkers, whatever they're called, different forms of the word. Lightworkers of, Lower Manhattan or whatever, these different regions and so on. When I came up with the word, I also then received a download guidance on how to do a conference. And I said, let's do this conference and call it the Universal Lightworkers. Not global, not planetary, not Upper Cincinnati, it's like beyond global and so on. It's Universal Lightworkers. Because it was intended, as I received that, I could see that it included not just a few people of a group or whatever. And especially since this is so long ago that I had that idea, there wasn't really internet at all or anything like that. So it was really about us connecting by spreading the word and doing our best to do so, have conferences. So we came up with a conference, the Universal Lightworkers Conference. And, dear friends of mine sort of stepped up, primarily Robin Rose, and she kept the website going and all that, but she helped run that and be the director of that. It was sort of an idea I had, and all I did was tell her what was the vision, and then she just kind of directed it and took it from there. But the vision, I appreciate that it was kept, because the vision was not a conference of the head, the mind, the thinking. It was a conference people could feel. Like, it was amazing. Speakers were chosen, generally speaking, they were chosen, their ability to be good speakers, but also this compatibility and camaraderie and collaboration. Those who would want to show up and have their limousine ride and their red carpet, they weren't usually invited. Once in a while, you'd get some entitled kind of a speaker, and then they generally weren't invited back. Because once you see it, you go, God, look at that. It just doesn't fit. It's something off. And the people loved it. They could feel the vibes. And it was almost confusing to some, going, what have you guys done to create? And they would say to Robin and compliment her and so forth. And it was kind of funny because I'd hear all the feedback and the confusion people would have. How does this happen? What's the light going on here? Did you put some opiates in everybody's waters? I'm like, they're feeling like this, like, wow, high. And it wasn't anything fake or synthetic at all. It was first and foremost the intention, God first. Make this conference about God first. Now, which speakers, musicians, and so on know how to step into that and say, I am here to be of service, instead of, I'm here to be a performer, I'm here to sell books or whatever. Can you step into that? And I'm telling you guys, you may not understand this or know the history of this world or conferences, spiritual conferences and all that, but let me tell you, man, it was almost impossible to find that level of speaker, that integrity, and that's, even though they call themselves spiritual teachers and authors and all that, I'm just telling you, man, I would never name names, but it was interesting to behold that kind of a vibe where people are so self-oriented. And I'm going to get to a point about making this personal in your life. But I just said, it's the light of God. That's what's behind this. When people are going, wow, it must be this or that, it must be full moon, or is this conjunct that? It's like, God, people just want to use their head and make excuses. You don't understand. It's because as it came to me, it was about God. And then so is my own personal choices and ministry, as best I can, on a day-to-day basis. And that's what the vibe is when people go, well, who's this guy and what's this vibe? I can say, well, it's my curly locks, or, which I've chopped off just at times just to say, doesn't mean anything to me. I think 3 times in the last probably 15 years or so, which is like an average every 5 years, I just chop it to my shoulders because people sometimes will think that I care. Like, I just grow it because I don't have somebody to just cut it on a more regular basis. I could find somebody, and I've had somebody that trims it for me, but it's like, it's more of a convenience thing. I just don't bother, and that's a lot of me. There's a lot of things you just don't bother with, and people think it's a thing for me. So, I don't think of it like, because I've written a book, or I've written several books, or it's curly locks, or none of this matters. It's underneath it. When people go, there's a vibe, and some people will connect it to, I must know you from a past life. It's like, stop talking. Try to just credit things to God. Try to just say, I wonder if this is a taste of what God is like. Not that I'm saying I'm it. I'm saying that when we dedicate our lives, people can hear it, see it, feel it, sense it. And some people will hate you for it, but some, especially children and animals, there's a lot of this, what's that, and it's kind of cool. Or just people with good hearts. To the pure in heart, all things are pure. To the wicked, all things are wicked. It's an old saying, not only from the Bible, but from the old Buddhist sutras. And it's in the Tantra teachings too. It's one of the statements that runs through various traditions, and it's such a perfect one because it teaches us about responsibility. So we're all made in the image of God. Are you doing your best to manifest that? Then you're a light worker. Have you made a conscious choice? There's a little criteria I'm going to give here. Have you made a conscious choice to be a light worker? Yeah, you may not even call it that, but have you made a conscious choice to do what is synonymous with being a light worker, which is to manifest the presence of God? If you say, I'm here, I'm ready. Course in Miracles would call it a teacher of God. Somebody else would call it a miracle worker. I use that term a lot. And it doesn't mean you're in a white robe and you're only a male and parting the Red Sea. It's someone who's just simply, I'm just dedicated to be of service. Now, if you say I'm just here to be of service, so I'm going to join the Red Cross and so forth, that's a very beautiful gesture. But that's not necessarily light worker because you haven't consciously connected it to God yet. I think it's a heartfelt thing, but it's not a crown-like thing. Let's put a little metaphor to it. When, you could be the nicest person. I mean, God, save the animals and rescue animals and do good things and bring, food to seniors, do all kinds of good things. And I think you're a really good soul. Do it under the auspices of being a light worker. Do it where you say, why am I doing this? Oh, well, I heard it's good karma. That's not a light worker. Why are you doing it? Well, I'm doing it because my mother did this in her generation and her mother's mother, and no, that's not light work. It's when you say, like Jesus, did you not know I would be about my Father's work? When you say I'm a light worker, by even a slight variation of wording, if you would like, but when you say I'm a light worker and you mean, first and foremost, I'm here to be a servant of God. Now, I don't mean just a overly humble monk, nun-like servant. That's old school version of servant and so forth. But it means I'm here to be the presence. In the old days, we thought it was I'm here to be a meeker example of selflessness, and it went overboard. Now I'm talking about how to be the presence, not just to serve the superstitious presence up in the sky, how to anchor that light, back to light again, anchor that light. That's a light worker. The winds blow heavily and you're holding a lantern and it's frustrating because the wind keeps blowing out the matches. A light worker is going to keep going because there is no other option. I will keep doing this until the lamp is lit and then it illuminates the way for other people. That's a light worker. A light worker doesn't say, not until there's electricity, I'm not going to hassle with this. Just you're holding a lamp, you have a match. The lamp is your presence, your being, right here, your body and your being. The match is your choice to light and light and light and get that thing lit. And when you do, match your will with your presence. Oh my God, you start to glow and it's just fantastic. This is feeling more of an inspirational talk, so bear with me, guys. So it's just, isn't that great though? It's like this beautiful presence. That's a light worker. Now that I'm a lamp and I'm lit, how's my day going to look? Well, fairly bright. Yeah, some days it kind of flickers. Sometimes we forgot to, whatever metaphor, kerosene, or we forgot to raise the wick up a little more. And I let it dim a little bit. Those are those days where our stuff gets in the way, our frustrations and so on. But make an adjustment. Well, how do I know I need the adjustment? It's very simple. How much light are you bringing? How much did you bring today? Let's pretend you looked back at the day and said, oh, you don't know what kind of day I had. I would have brought more light, but I got cut off 3 times on the freeway. Then I got a blowout. Nobody pulled over to help me. I tried to call such and such, but my cell reception wasn't good, and on and on and on and on. That's a dim day. And at the end of that day, I would say, okay, the only way I could have had a dim-lighted day, dimly lighted or dim-lighted day, would be because somehow I had to have allowed it to burn down too low, which is like saying I didn't live in balance and I didn't take care and do a little stretching today and a little extra water today and a little prayer, a good balanced lifestyle. That might have been it. Or if you say the metaphor were kerosene or oil or something, then you would say, I forgot my source. I didn't plug in today, but I did meditate today and it still went wonky. Yeah, but this could be last week when I didn't plug in. The ego never allows you just to see exact tit for tat or apples for apples. It doesn't allow you, because then people would just catch on and make a more concerted effort to start their day with the light of God. So it's just know that somewhere I had to have allowed the wick or the kerosene, to burn down or burn out. And you're never without the potential. That's why there's a Jewish holiday involved with the lanterns, staying lit for an unusually, miraculously long period of time. Because, and what's interesting is, the miracle isn't that God, see, in the old school we would have said, and the miracle was that God kept the lanterns burning. If you asked God and you said, so what do you think about that miracle where the lanterns kept burning? And wait for his answer, God would have said, well, actually, it's a bigger story than that. The miracle was that I was able to tell these people of Israel that they are the lanterns and that your light can never go out. It wasn't about, clay lamps. It was about a statement that you guys, you have the ability to be a light worker and never burn out. And that in itself, that statement's really cool, as I heard myself say it. So the work of a light worker is not just what we do, but to keep the lantern healthy. I don't mean just body, to keep the self in right proportion. The wick up a little bit, refill the oil, let God kind of replenish that oil like multiplying loaves. It's let God replenish, let God fill you. It's just a beautiful concept. A few days ago, those of you who follow some of my teachings, you know that I often recommend Jesus Calling, or God Calling is another daily reading, just in daily inspirational reading. Any kind, for anybody, is great. Start your day with an inspirational reading. And it's what I call waking up on the right side of your head instead of the wrong side of your bed. So this concept was covered a few days ago, I remember. In Jesus Calling, it had something, along the same lines. It's let me replenish you. Let me be your strength and you won't tire, and so on. I'm just, it says that a few times, certainly in that book and other books, but people still forget it. Plug in, let your heart, your soul, let your being be filled. Then that's great, mind you. That's great that you made that choice. But when you realize the number of in the dark caves of life, and you're walking and you see the faces of hope, people don't know which direction to go because this dark place that we've fallen into, these caves, labyrinth of caves, just what do you call it? A honeycomb of caves, but all darkened. So people in a matter of minutes, maybe hours, but possibly just minutes, people get terrified and feel hopeless in that kind of a metaphor. And then all of a sudden, someone went, oh, look, a lantern, but, and it glows. People love that. There are people that are going to resent you for having that light. That's why they molested you. That's why they've raped you. That's why they've dished out racial comments. It's because they're just being idiots. And by that, I know some of you think that's, irreverent kind of, commentary or wording, but since I'm irreverent, it works. So it's like, that's not our good soul. That's our ridiculous human ego self. The ego's not going to be brilliant like a beautiful light. So if I light my light, there's some people that are going to go, oh my God, thank you. I can see a bit better now. Thank you. Can you lead us out of here now that we can see? That's great. That's light work. Some people are going to see you light your light and go, give me that light. Who do you think you are? I'm your parents. How did you get light that I don't have? And they see you as disrespectful or competitive or whatever. That's the sickness, guys. And it's just the ridiculous. Call it ridiculous, call it stupid. It's just absolutely crazy. But it's understandable. When people are in their ego, they're scared, they're competitive, and so on. And they're going to hate you for your light or want your light from you. That's just the, you could say, mentally carnivorous behavior of people that perceive themselves as lacking. So the work of a light worker is that metaphor. Light your light, do your best to bring it forward. When it grows dim, that seems done by others or done by you, replenish, man, rest, feel, take time to just, and it doesn't take hours or days. It can be seconds or minutes, believe it or not. There are times that, just in a matter of seconds, I can just stop, close my eyes or keep them open, and have almost like a surreal, it's almost like a drug-induced surreal experience by just becoming one with everything. And all of a sudden, it's the moisture on leaves, and for me, it's a greenery in the outside, and it's really something for me. But it can really be anything. It can be the beauty of a room or art or color or whatever. But it's just to recognize this feeling of connectedness. And all I'm saying is that it only takes seconds to connect or replenish. So just do your best to know and believe. If I am the light of God, which I am, you are, I am, we are, I am, we are, right? The light of God, then I just need to remember that for a moment. And I'm starting to replenish. I don't have to like fight for it, beg for it, just to allow it. And of course, two main ways to do that is one is accepting it, just affirming it and accepting it. But also, when I recognize or realize that it's stuck, it's not flowing into me, it's stuck somewhere, there's only one other thing to do, forgiveness. If something's stuck, it needs forgiven. The only reason it's stuck, it's because it's saying, hello, and you're like, hold on a minute, I'm trying to get somewhere. No, hello, hold on, shh, I'm trying to get somewhere, and it's because we're stuck in a grievance, a resentment that's not healed. And our soul is trying to say, hey, guess what? I found this in the basement. And we're like, hold on a second, I'm trying to figure out what colors would look best in here. And it's always best to discern what colors might look best when you turn on the light a little bit, right? Otherwise, you don't know what you're doing here. So, the paints, the colors, or our decisions in life, it's all the same kind of matching metaphor, parallel. So our work, forgiveness, as well as just accepting and affirming that light for ourselves, call it in. I don't believe in entitlement. Entitlement's ridiculous. That's when people act like they're better than anyone else and they're supposed to get something. To be entitled means you owe this to me. That's different from saying because I am. And that is actually a humble statement because I am only as much as we are. Entitled means I don't care who you are, I get more because I'm special. It sounds similar, but there's a distinction. One is I am better, I'm more, I'm entitled. The other one is I am and you are. And anything I receive, if I receive it before you, I'll share it with you. If you receive it first, I don't expect it because that's entitled. I just quiet my mind and whatever you have, congratulations, because you're a part of me anyway, so peace to us both. The work of a light worker also comes down to the nitty-gritty of life, how we deal with people, what we do with our lives, decision-making, and relations, including like family. A light worker recognizes if I'm here to anchor in the light of God, how do I deal with problematic partners, friends, children, parents, whatever it happens to be? How do I deal with that if I'm a light worker? Well, the first and foremost thing, because light is actually you could say a manifestation of love, and love is also a manifestation of light. They cooperatively breed each other, bring forth each other. So as a light worker, I'm a love worker too, which means problematic people first deserve my love. And so if you do the love like, okay, fine, I'm sending you love, then it still has a connotation of you're lesser than me, undeserving, but I'm going to be nice and let you deserve it. To really understand it, it doesn't mean you can't have doubts. You're allowed to go, God, this is a tough case, man. This person's a jerk. Go ahead and be honest. But find a place that doesn't approach the response to them from your head. Yeah, they might be really challenging, but still get to a place where you say, what if there's only one? What if we're one? I don't mean like, let's stand around the campfire and chant. I mean, what if we're actually one? What if that challenging person represents one cell belief neuron in my brain or mind or soul, and they represent the challenging one, the one that's just not wanting to give in to the light? What do I want to do with it? If I just hate them and push them away, I've done that to my brain. Literally a brain cell could suffer, but I've done it consciously. And in terms of consciousness, I've done that to another soul. So that means I'm now incomplete because we're one and I just extracted one. So you come up with an understanding of what it means. We're all one. They're part of me and I get it. Don't overanalyze. Don't overly forgive them in a false sense. Just go, I get it. I totally get it. They're a challenged part, but they're still a part of me. Do I have to know what the part is? No. Just that they're a challenged part. I get it. What would I like that challenged part to receive today? Healing might be the word. Peace or love or caring or something. Understanding, compassion. A word's going to come to you. Then spend a moment saying, I am. Whatever the thing is that you think that they need, like peace and compassion, whatever. Then just say to yourself, before you do anything more, and I am. I am the light of the world, and therefore I am the presence of peace, compassion, love. And to you, my brother, sister, I extend myself to you. Myself being what? Attributes of God, basically. Peace and joy. And this is very, very powerful, and it's very applicable. Because I'm not telling you, like some teachers might say, well, you just need to forgive them. And it's so condescending the way it's said, but also it's throwing people to the wolves. It's like saying, you make yourself forgive something that you're not even capable of understanding what to forgive. So you kind of then make yourself forgive, and that doesn't really feel great, because you don't totally get it. So this helps you get it to another level. That is partly the work of a light worker. To say, if I'm the light of God, I'm also, and notice, what is it you think you or that person need, or both needs in a moment? Then become that presence, affirm that I am the presence of, and then I am extending this to you. Never turning away their soul. Now, the work of a light worker also, of course, has boundaries involved. Listen, so-and-so, I'm really sorry about the challenges we're having. This is assuming you have any kind of conversation that works. I'm really sorry about the issues we've been having, and I'm going to just choose to step back and because I don't know what else to do. Instead of saying, because you're an impossible ass, say something more like, I'm not sure what to do, which might mean that you feel that they're an impossible, person. But don't say that to them. Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, a really interesting part where he says, when people are coming from their egos, they're always wrong. So let's get that out of the way. It's not like he's going, oh, they're just misunderstood. He says they're always wrong. If they're coming from their ego, they're wrong. He says your job is to not tell them that. And what he means by that is, don't judge, condemn them. Don't fate them to being bad off, etc. Your job is to say, despite them coming from that place, how can I bring a different place to this moment? Force the person into it? No, all I can do is bring it. And does that mean you're supposed to go, I want to talk to you because even though you behave the way you do, I just want you to know that I'm still feeling love and compassion for you. Which is like saying, listen, since I'm superior, I'm going to handle this despite the way you act. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be stealthy. Sometimes no words and just in your mind, God, I don't quite understand what's going on with this person between them and me, but since they're in my airspace, they must represent something. And I'm being tested and tempted to see them poorly or judge them. And I'd rather extend light. I'd rather extend what's really needed, which is love or peace or whatever word comes to you that is a feeling word of God. And that's what I'd like to give that person. It is amazing because I could sit here right now, close my eyes, picture Adolf Hitler. And I'm not talking about just going, there, little Adolf, you poor thing, you were misunderstood. No, it's you're allowed to say, wow, dude, wow, were you off or what? Like, my God, you got a little out of line there, didn't you? It's okay, say it, laugh if you want. But knowing that person could be that sick and hurt and hateful, what would they really want? Happiness would be a word I might come up with. And then I'd say, and I am the presence of happiness. And I'm going to extend that to you. I'm going to extend it to you so thoroughly. Off come those tacky black and gray suits and clothes and uniforms you always wore. Gray and darkness. It falls away. And lightness comes to you. And if I need to, I see you turning into a light being. I'm not pretending that the behaviors were okay. I'm saying that despite the behaviors, I will / choose to see light in you. Now, some of us go, well, they don't deserve it. You've just taken a segment of your own brain, neuron or more in your own brain, and a segment of your mind, which is different than your brain, and your consciousness, which is even greater than your mind, you could say. A segment of your consciousness, your mind, even you could say, in a sense, your soul and your neurons of your brain have been segmented out and put in jail / hell. And if you're okay with that, good. It'll come around as a test later, because God wills that no soul shall perish. So your soul should not perish. It will not. But you're going to have to confront your own personal hell at some point. And when you do, out comes, God, how many different people that you've, enslaved or enjailed or imprisoned. However many you chose to not be able to see this other thing. And it's an interesting bit, because it may sound like I'm enabling behaviors, but not at all. Anybody that knows me knows I would not do that. I would say no. Say no to this person. Say no to the behavior. Say, listen to your son, your daughter, your parents, whatever. Listen, I'm not sure what to do. It seems like every phone call or every holiday when we get together, there's this challenge stuff like anger, or don't say you guys do, just say there's this thing. I'm not comfortable with it. It seems like there's attacking or backbiting or secrets or whatever, and say, and I just want to come out. I want us all to be happier, and I'm not sure how to bring that about. So what I'm going to do is act like it's a little bit your fault, take the hit a little bit and go, so since I don't know how to really resolve it, I'm going to step back until I know how to kind of experience more happiness. So if any of you want to join me and commit to a happy, healthy family life, or parental, whatever it happens to be, child, sibling, or whatever. If any of you want to join me, I'm just wanting to let you know I'm here. If not, I'm not here. Because I'm not here to perpetuate the darkness. That's words I'm using with you. You wouldn't want to say that to your family. Okay? So the work of a light worker, God, it's so beautiful if you think about it. I am the light of God. It's almost like the prayer of a light worker. It's almost like the ultimate divine feminine prayer is not, I am the divine goddess and I'm here to castrate the masculine. That's not the divine feminine. And those who preach that, teach that, perpetuate that are just angry, and they're hurt, and they deserve the same love everybody does. But you don't buy into it. See through it. Offer a different option to groups like that. If they don't want to hear it, move on. Just say, I'm all about light, man. This doesn't feel like light, so thanks, bye. Do your own thing. Go with the light. Follow the light. And the divine feminine prayer is, I am a handmaiden of the Lord. And that's a statement of humility that some angry women and manipulative men don't like. They don't understand it. That in my innocence, in my purity, in my clarity, in my devotion to the light of God, I am completely immune to crap. I am shielded. I am light. I'm protected. That's the God goddess. I don't have to shout God goddess to be one. I don't have to prove. I don't have to hurt others, stomp others to prove that I'm powerful. I don't have to make them into doormats to prove to them that I'm no longer a doormat. Instead, you just realize, wow, I'm alive. I'm free. And I can walk confidently and know that I'm walking in the light of God. And as a light worker, I will do my best to be that presence. I won't always succeed because I'm on the planet. If I stub my toe, ow, it hurts. That's just what seems to be. If somebody tells you you've got some horrible illness, it's hard not to go, if someone passes away unexpectedly, especially, or even if it's expected, it hurts sometimes, and that's this world. But to be able to know the light is not gone. Someone just died, but the light is not gone. What you say to yourself is, isn't this odd how my eyes would tell me that the light has gone out, but it isn't. So, but it feels like it. Someone died and I can't believe it. And I loved them and I can't, and my puppy, raised my dog for so many years, and now it's gone. And suddenly, and something happened. It was terrible. Even if it was gruesome, my ex, that jerk, killed my beloved dog. Something gruesome like that. By all intents and purposes, the light's gone. I mean, what light is there now with all this hurt and hate? But even if the light seems gone, it's that my eyes have shut. You're not going to believe that it's because your eyes have shut, but your eyes have shut. Now, when the eyes have shut, what's nice is this. I can still feel the warmth. I don't see it, God dang it. But if I calm down and quiet, I do still feel it a bit. And that's what you're doing literally and metaphorically. Prayerfully, meditationally, but also literally, and deeper metaphorically. So I'm doing this literally, but I'm also deepening the message to myself. So I might literally feel a warmth. I might emotionally feel a warmth. But on a deeper level, it means something big, guys. That despite what seems dark, there's a warmth. It isn't the warmth that I'm asking you to get excited about. It's the, wait a minute. How can there be warmth? Is that like God's presence? Is that like a, I'm still here with you, honey, message? Yes. Whoa, okay, well, I'm still angry though. Okay, I know, but do you still feel? Yeah, I still feel that warmth. It's kind of funny, man, as I'm sitting here all angry, but that warmth is sitting there. It's not saying, I'll give you warmth if you stop being angry. It's just sitting there. This perfect, loving acceptance. No matter what state you're in, you may not be able to see me, but if you try, you'll be able to feel me. And that's the perfect love of God. That's the love that can conquer all, so to speak. Because it corrects everything. It comforts everything. Our greatest triumphs and our deepest sorrows. And when we do that for each other, see, for example, not just the warmth of God, but what about when a friend is struggling and they're losing faith, they're doubting, this went wrong and I can't believe, how could this happen? And I got, conned by another partner. This is like the fourth one that's done this to me in 10 years. How do I keep falling for this? You're being that warmth, but how? It might be taking their hand. It might be just listening. It might be the tone of your voice. I can't say because it depends on how God channels through you. And God will channel through perfectly, but it goes through our filters. So it might inspire you to change your posture. It might inspire you to take their hand. It might inspire you to smile. It's hard to say exactly what form it'll take because it's got to kind of drop in and click something. And what it clicks, it depends on the day, the mood, the moment, your history, your experience. And on that note, a light worker is not a person who's like, I want to be a light worker, so there's some group that's going to test me and somehow test my past lives and make sure that I've been perfect and devotional for X number of lifetimes. You could be the greatest flaming drug addict. You could be prostitute. You could be, totally off your rocker historically. And it doesn't matter because when you say I'm ready to be a light worker, then God says, you're sort of one that knows how to hang around some pretty dark people. Yeah, that's me. I've been there. I need somebody to speak to those type of people. Do you mind? Do you feel confident enough that you can step in that space without losing it, losing your center? Yeah, I think so. And you step in. If you do lose your center, you back up, but only one step back and recalibrate, maybe walk in there again. If you find yourself incapable, then you'll stop walking into that place. But your history gets used basically in a perfectly illuminating way. And I think it's beautiful how that happens. How many years I've done this and people I've talked to. And it was interesting because I think as a kid, I was brought up to have opinions on certain things. maybe political affiliations to some degree. I never got into that, but I heard it anyway. The normal things of life. I think I certainly was brought up with a certain amount of this and that, whether it's race or gender or whatever. But it wasn't really me, so I kind of grew out of that when I was still a kid. I grew up fairly quickly. But I still had some. Like, for example, if I was just making up an example and using numbers, if I dated at 20, I might have been maybe more possessive or jealous than at 40, and now at 60. I mean, it's different, and we're all supposed to show those kinds of, patterns of growth or whatever, those signs of having moved forward. But, so I can relate to some things like that, it's been with us, but it becomes something else, and you should be able to see that in yourself. Don't make yourself better. Just let yourself grow organically. You can do some amount of pushing yourself, I guess you could say, but I wouldn't make that my pride and joy. Pushing yourself is okay, but within limits. Because if you push yourself too hard and fail, you're going to be far more upset than if you were just letting it be organic. Then it's like a step back, and then tomorrow you take 2 steps forward. When you overly obsess on righteous behavior and crash, oh my God, and slip, then you're going to crash because you got too intent on it. Almost like just accelerating a car too fast, slippery road, and now it's harder to catch on than if you were at a decent, slower pace, let's say. So just remember this, the work of a light worker, it's to bring the light places that are sometimes welcoming it, but sometimes to a place that don't welcome it, to people that don't welcome it, and your job is to bring the presence as best you can. Not forcing it, but just bring the presence, light, love, laughter, somehow, whatever's best needed in that moment. Be different, be an exception. You could be stuck on jury duty and say, oh, I don't want to be here. But if that's where you are, to somehow see the people there, or unemployment lines, I don't know, places that you would think aren't very good, Social Security, in a long line at a hospital trying to get care, whatever it is, try to make a difference. I've told stories about that, and being in long lines at airlines that were laid over and whatever else. It's easy to become part of the problem, and it's not so easy to become part of the solution. But when you're working on light bringing and light bearing, then it becomes easier because you realize, okay, well, this time I'll just look at a kid, as a child in the line, and play with them, and they do little hide their face, and then you do a little back, I mean, if that's all I can do is, that's what happened, that's the moment, it's just a child and they're kind of giggling, and this line of miserable people, if that's all I could pull off, great, so be it. Because if we all walked on the other side 2 minutes from now, and we were asked how we were doing in our darkest trial, which in that moment, that was a dark moment, at least I'd have one child saying, I like that guy, and I'd be good to go and into the light of God. It's just an example, okay? And so bring the light where you can. And there's days where you're not going to be in the mood. There's going to be days where you go, I'm going to be one of those people that needs somebody else here to kind of carry the moment. And it's kind of nice because often you'll see witness evidence of that someone did catch it, what you could have caught, but they caught that thing from God and went, bing, light went off, and they told a joke, or whatever it happened to be. I remember so many examples of this. I couldn't even go into it. It would just never end. The number of examples of seemingly most challenging situations where just a moment of levity or a moment of prayer, or so many different variations of what shifted the moment for me and or for anybody that was willing to feel that difference. It's not like you make it obvious you're doing something, but people can still feel the difference, and you see a little change going on. I got so many times on airlines where I did that. There was one time we were late, and it was the last flight to get me home after a long, like 6-week tour. And I was like, come on, let's go, come on. And they're waiting, and and it's like, there's people going, I've been late to a flight. They never waited for me. And it's building and getting darker and negative, and all that, and finally the flight attendant gets back on and just goes, well, apparently, there's the late flight. So somebody's running to get here, and it's going to take them like 10 minutes to get from the other side of the airport. And I just go, let's just leave. Let's just leave them. Now, I'm joking, but some people don't know that. So I go, let's just leave them. They'll never know. They'll just think we left earlier on time. We're already late. And the lady's going, oh, that would be nice. Because I could tell they all wanted to think that. And so I'm just sitting there and kind of reading a little bit. And then finally, the person comes on board. And they're going, thanks for waiting. I go, I know. Everybody wanted to leave, but I told them, let's wait. And I mean, you should have seen people in front of me turned and looked at me. The flight attendants, like, I had everybody hooked, man. It was great. They sort of thought I took the role of, I'm going to be the really bad guy, and then hooked them all in, and then made a joke, and it became just really funny. And it also helped my own frustrations of, we're going to be delayed, and they could say, well, now you're so late you can't fly tonight, and then we're all stuck for another day somewhere. So, I mean, it even lightened that up. So you'd never know what it's going to be, but we have a chance all the time to bring light to the world. And I just want to thank you for joining me again, and joining all of us. You guys are so beautiful, and you share such great feedback. I mean, it's just a spiritual family, although always welcoming in visitors, people coming through. They're digging it, they're not digging it, whatever it is. Some stay for the duration and become part of this, and some just kind of watch every so often. Some one time they're gone. But there's still such a beautiful camaraderie, and I love that. It's one of my favorite things on this planet is to see when people work together and to collaborate and so on. So I love seeing the vibes you guys bring and share, and the support you give each other. We have a Friends of Michael Mirdad Facebook group, as well as our YouTube channel. And if you watch on YouTube, remember, consider also watching on Facebook, but also you can consider being a Friends of Michael Mirdad in our group, private group. But see what feels comfortable to you. But wow, what an amazing vibe in that group, Friends of Michael Mirdad, or here. In all of these various forms, there's it's not just me. People will comment to each other and be there for each other. Someone goes, oh God, that's been happening to me. Someone else will say, how you doing with it? And they give feedback, and that's just beautiful. You have to understand that's light work. That's the intention. Even when I tell you what the groups are for, I put a little paragraph and say, we're not here to talk. I don't want to hear any crap. I don't want any preaching to people about God and spirituality, in a preachy way. Well, you're doing that wrong, and you have to meditate like this, or my group is better. No, they're gone. We'll just brush them out, man. We keep this clean as best we can. Not vulgarity, but also not heavy politic. We just keep it clean and make it about light work, just like the conference that I once designed and had somebody else be the director of, let them be the director of. It's just a beautiful thing. Inspirations are going to come through you. You'll write a song that someone else will record, like I get an inspiration and somebody else took the event and made it really great. And they still have a website, Universal Lightworkers, I think it is .com. So become a member, participate there, and bring that light. Make sure that you're one of the people in a group like that. Even though I came up with that word and all that, Robin still runs that website. So if ever you see other people slip in under the radar in a group like that, or in my groups or anywhere, that start bringing the darker, unnecessary stuff, point it out. Point it out to my team, point it out to Robin and her team, point it out and say, this doesn't feel like light work. Can we reel it in a little bit? And if they don't, bring it up again. And, and that's how are we going to bring light to this world if not through our efforts? And our efforts doesn't mean not good with God. It means our efforts to align with God and bring God through. So thank you again. And this is a good year for a lot of things to be cleared and cleansed. So let it do that for you and help you make a stride forward in your life. People talk about economy or politics or viruses and health issues. Remember, there's no virus that is as rampant as fear. And fear is the one virus, the only one really. Fear is the only virus really, and it takes a myriad number of forms. It fragments into subtopics and subtopics and all that people think are topics in themselves. But it's because people are addicted to that particular, what they think is the medicine, the conspiracies and the causes and solutions. They make this stuff up to talk so they don't have to talk about their original virus, which is fear. So that's the nature of people. And, I choose not to really participate because it's not God. It's not real. So why would I participate? And there's no need to defend yourself when you follow God. It's like you don't have to prove that your route is better than people that are going more fearfully. Just don't bother. So God bless. Many, many thanks for watching us one time, or if you're an ongoing viewer, God bless you all and thank you for watching. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.